So you want to build real-world applications with large language models, right? Well, you're gonna need the right tools. Today, we're diving deep into 4 of the most essential frameworks that every developer really needs to know: LangChain, LangGraph, CrewAI, and Autogen.
A raw large language model is kind of like a genius brain in a jar. It's got all this incredible intelligence, but absolutely no way to interact with the world or follow a multi-step plan. So how do you actually turn all that potential into a real application? Well, that's exactly the problem these frameworks are designed to solve. They're the scaffolding, the bridge that connects that AI brain to the real world.
So let's kick things off with the one that really started it all, LangChain. If you've been in this space for a minute, you've heard of it. Think of it as the original Swiss Army knife for building with LLMs. It's the foundational toolkit that pretty much everyone starts with, and for very good reason.
At its heart, what LangChain does is give you a whole set of modular building blocks, kind of like Legos. So instead of having to code every single interaction with the LLM from scratch, things like how to format a prompt perfectly, or connect to a database, or even just remember what you talked about 5 minutes ago, LangChain gives you these pre-built components you can just snap together.
And these are the core Legos in the set. You've got your APIs to connect to outside data, templates to really nail your prompts, memory modules so your app isn't an amnesiac, and most importantly, you have chains. Chains are the glue. They're how you link all these different actions together in a logical sequence. It's how you tell the LLM what to do, and just as important, in what order. Now, the real magic that connects all these blocks is the LangChain Expression Language, or LCEL for short. See this little pipe symbol here? That's the secret sauce. It lets you chain components together in the super clean, super intuitive way. You just pipe the output from one step directly into the input of the next one. It might look simple, but this syntax is incredibly powerful and makes your code way easier to read and manage. Okay, so LangChain is perfect for these linear A to B to C kind of workflows. But what if your process isn't a straight line? What if the AI needs to try something, check its own work, and maybe loop back in and try again if it made a mistake? For that, you need to go beyond a simple chain. You need a graph.
And here's the difference in a nutshell. On the left, you've got LangChain, a simple sequence. Step A, then step B, then step C. Done. But on the right, LangGraph can create cycles. It can go from A to B, but then it can decide, that didn't work, I'm going to loop back to A. Or maybe jump over to a totally different step. This ability to create loops and branches is the key to building much more sophisticated agent-like behavior. The core concept that makes all of this possible is something called state management. The best way to think about it is like a shared whiteboard. Every step, or node, in your process can see this whiteboard. So a node can read what's on the board, do its job, and then write its own notes back onto the board for the next node to see. This shared memory lets the whole system keep track of its progress and make smart decisions. And this state management unlocks one of the most critical features for any serious AI application: putting a human in the loop. With LangGraph, you can actually design a workflow that runs on its own, pauses at a key decision point, and just waits. It waits for a person to come in, review the work, and give it the thumbs up before it continues. This is absolutely essential for building AI systems that you can actually trust.
Okay, so we've leveled up from a simple chain to a complex looping graph. But what if a single AI agent, even a smart one, just isn't enough? What if you need a whole team of specialists? Well, that's the whole idea behind our next framework, CrewAI. It's all about building and orchestrating your very own crew of AI agents.
CrewAI's big idea is to model how a corporate team works. So instead of having one generalist AI trying to do everything, you create a crew of specialists. You could have one agent that's an expert researcher, another that's a brilliant copywriter, and maybe a third whose only job is to review and critique the work. They all collaborate and delegate tasks to tackle a bigger goal together.
And what's really cool is how you define these agents. You're basically just writing a job description. You give each one a role like senior researcher. You give it a specific goal it needs to achieve. You give it the tools it's allowed to use, like a search engine. And you can even give it a backstory to help shape its personality and how it responds. It's a really powerful way to guide the AI's behavior.
And this crew can operate in 2 main ways. You can have a sequential process, which is like an assembly line. The task moves from one agent to the next in a fixed order. Or, and this is where it gets really powerful, you can have a hierarchical process, where you actually have a manager agent that orchestrates the whole team, assigning tasks dynamically as needed. All right, last but not least, let's look at Autogen for Microsoft. It tackles this whole multi-agent problem from a completely different angle. If CrewAI is all about building a structured corporate team, then Autogen is about creating a flexible, dynamic roundtable discussion. The entire philosophy here is based on conversational agents. Autogen lets you spin up multiple agents that can literally chat with each other and with you to figure out how to solve a problem. It really shines in scenarios where the solution isn't clear from the start and needs to emerge from a back-and-forth conversation, especially for tasks that involve writing and executing code.
Now, the really key concept to understand here is the user proxy agent. Think of this agent as your personal representative inside the AI conversation. You'll have an assistant agent that writes code and suggests what to do, but the user proxy agent is the one that actually runs the code. And crucially, it can and definitely should be configured to ask you, the human, for permission first. It creates a vital safety checkpoint. And this brings us to an absolutely critical point: safety. Letting an AI write and run code on your machine can be, well, a little bit risky, right? Autogen is built with this in mind from the ground up. The user agent is designed to execute code inside a secure, sandboxed environment like a Docker container. This keeps it totally isolated and prevents it from messing with your main system. So, there we have it. 4 frameworks, 4 pretty different philosophies. LangChain for the foundational building blocks, LangGraph for loops and cycles, CrewAI for structured teams, and Autogen for these dynamic conversations. The million-dollar question is, how do you know which one to pick for your project? Well, here's your cheat sheet. It's actually pretty straightforward. If you just need simple, linear sequences and the basic building blocks, start with LangChain. It's the foundation. If you need your application to have loops, think for itself, and maybe get a human's approval along the way, that's a job for LangGraph. If you're orchestrating a whole team with very specific roles and a clear process, go with CrewAI. And finally, if you need a flexible conversational system, especially for something complex like code generation, Autogen is probably your best bet.
So, from simple chains to complex collaborative crews, each of these frameworks gives you the structure you need to turn an LLM's raw, amazing potential into a real-world solution. They are the bridge from what if to what is. So really, the only question left is, with all these tools in your hand, what are you going to build first?